What is up, my fellow Illumineers? It is me, your boy JDZ, and I'm back at you again with another high-profile, high-contested Lorcana match, and I'm so excited, Garrett. I can't even talk because we have an absolute spectacle coming your guys' way. In the building, we have Zan, we have Frank. Two of the game's greatest players are locked in and engaged and ready to go on some quests. But in the booth with me today, I have a good homie back at it again. I have Garrett. Garrett, talk to me, baby. How are you feeling about this matchup? Are you ready? Are you laser focused? Are you locked in? What's going to happen?
JDZ, I am so ready for this match. One, because you are hosting, which means I can just sit back and relax and just talk Lorcana. I don't have to worry about operating the stream. So I'm chilling. But two, we have two DLC winners going head to head with two of the strongest decks in the game. So, of course, I'm super excited to see how this plays out. Zan and Frank being two trading card game legends, not just Lorcana legends, and I cannot wait to see what happens in this match.
Man, if you're not here for this one, you need to just go ahead and shut the stream off and get out of here. If you're not feeling this one, because you're getting out here for free, you're tuned in to a preview of the World Championship. Okay, I'm not talking some store championship. This is not even national. This is a preview for the World Championship, as both of these players are already Worlds qualified, and they're absolutely outstanding. Some people may not even sniff a day two for their whole careers. And Zan already got double Mickeys in the back pocket. So real quick, we're going to pull up that deck list, and we're going to talk about this green steel strategy and what Zan is trying to do. Okay, so a lot of people don't like this strategy. A lot of people don't like this deck list. It's the bane of a lot of people's existence when they have to sit across the table playing against this thing, but it is absolutely ferocious, and it has been for a long time now, especially when it's in the hands of a competent and prolific player such as Zan. When you think about it, a lot of TCGs, okay, going through all the different ones, they have their own types of mechanics and different things and effects and functionality. And there's always a deck, maybe two, that can kind of push those functionalities and those mechanics all the way to their limits. And this deck is doing that because it can shift almost better than any other deck in the game. It can sing almost better than the dang song deck. It can play bodyguards now because they got that Pluto. It can ward. It can play locations. It can do it all. And by the way, it's ripping cards from your hand while getting value. I think the deck is absolutely outstanding. But there are some drawbacks to it. I think in the hands of a lesser skilled player, it's quite complicated because you have to put all those plays together with this complex strategy, and it could kind of fall apart if your plays don't come in the right order that you might want those things to be. Any geek off the street can shift Diablo, put them in the cove, draw billion cards, and win, but it takes those skilled players to kind of find a way to win when those things aren't going your way, and Zan can absolutely do that.
It is one of the more skill-intensive decks. I don't think that you can just pick this deck up and be able to perform at the level that you see these players making top cut at DLCs with the deck are able to do, but it's definitely a deck that is extremely powerful, especially in the last set. This set, new cards have come into the set. Amethyst has sort of become one of the top decks, and this deck has sort of fallen down from like that number one, number two spot that I think it was in last set alongside Ruby Sapphire against the Steel Song deck that Frank is going to be going up against. I know it is definitely going to be more of an uphill battle. It's not necessarily the deck you want to bring into a room full of Amber Steel Song, because Amber Steel Song is able to do so many powerful things and unfair things that the Emerald Steel deck is able to do as well. Both of these decks, of course, are operating with steel cards, but they have different packages while trying to accomplish similar things, singing removal spells such as Let the Storm Rage On, Strength of a Raging Fire, and then Along Came Zeus, things like that. But there is the powerful strategy that they have of going under the Emerald Steel deck, if you were, and sort of outpace it. They have things like Lilo, which quests for 2, Piglet, which quests for 3, Smee, all these steel deck to remove if they don't have something like We Don't Talk About Bruno.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. And it's absolutely stacked. Frank coming in from Magic the Gathering. I think both of these players do have a Magic the Gathering history, but Frank is a a Hall of Famer, a Hall of Fame. If you don't know who he is, go ahead and just throw him into Google. Check out the Wikipedia page, and you can learn something about him. Absolutely phenomenal player. I also like the texture of this deck. Okay, you got a lot of one-ofs. I'm a cheeky one-of supporter myself sometimes, and you got that whole new world. You got that Simba, so you're going to be able to filter through your deck and get those one-ofs when you absolutely need them at their most beneficial effect. Like you said, that Cinderella style heart. If you can get that down, I think Zan might have a little bit of trouble dealing with that card. So I think the matchup is going to be phenomenal. I think the players are fantastic, and I think the game is going to be great. So again, you need to lock in. You need to put your seat back up. Okay, trade table is stowed on this one because we're about to take off. And please, out there at home, all the viewers out there in TV land, please, I'm asking you now, this is my one caveat as your host, give me and your boy Garrick a little bit of reprieve, okay? When we're in these booths and we're making these calls, all right, I'm never going to be Zan, okay? Garrick's never going to be Frank, all right? We're going to try our best to bring you guys along this journey with us as we're flying at 45,000 feet above the Lorcan of space. I'm going to be the captain. Garrick's going to be the co-pilot, okay? I need you guys to give me some slack because we're going to try to paint the picture and tell you what these players are trying to do, but I'm never going to be Frank. He's never going to be Zan, but we're going to do a very good job. And hopefully you guys are excited. Hopefully you guys are motivated. Hopefully you guys are following the program. And hopefully you guys are tuned in for this because if you're willing to learn and you want to play these strategies, these are the two best players that you can learn from in this metagame. But man, oh man, oh man, oh man, I don't know who's going to win. It might be one of those push and pull things. It might be one of those things that say who gets the best card kind of takes it, but it might be something along those lines. What do you think?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I think that Emerald Steel has a kind of a tough time into Steel Song, but it definitely can win. It's not like a huge blowout. Like if I were to guess, I'd say it's like 60-40 maybe in the favor of Steel Song specifically. But Emerald Steel definitely has the tools to advance in this matchup, especially with things like Ursula Deceiver, which can rip those powerful songs out of the hand of Frank Karsten. So there are tools available, especially you got to think about Pete, games referee, which can come in, blow the whistle, stop all those actions from coming down and preventing Frank from having those huge game-ending, game-changing turns where you sing a bunch of songs, play a bunch of characters, and there's nothing your opponent can really do to recover. On Frank's side, he really only has one of those Petes, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Both decks are playing a one of the Pluto Guard Dog, which has been absolutely popping off in set 6 thus far, and I'm interested to see how the song I'm Still Here plays out. Shout out to the Goo Goo Dolls. That is a Treasure Planet song, and it gives resist +2 and lets you draw a card. I think resist 2 is huge against these other steel decks because they try to do individual damage instead of these ruby cards, which just banish outright. Steel cards deal damage, so getting resist 2 on your singers or your questers could be absolutely huge against Emerald Steel.
All right, we are almost getting there. I'm just making some final touches onto the background situation. The players are getting ready, and we're going to be starting here very, very soon. So we'll give the late showers a little bit more time to find their seat. Go and pull up a seat into the front row because this is going to be a good one. Grab some popcorn, get absolutely ready. I'm just getting the stream set up, and then we're going to be getting ready to start here very soon as, oh my goodness, they just closed it out. So I might have to do all this over again. Yo, shout out to Ellie, shout out to Phil in the background. But here we go as, let's see. Hopefully they're going to come back in here soon. The players are just getting situated, doing their comms check. And we're about to get it started. We're about to get it started. Oh man. All right, so let me hop into the Discord really quickly. Let me get into the Discord really quickly and see some backside information on what's going down. And it looks like they are going to be coming back in soon. I'm watching. You guys aren't missing any action just yet. Okay, so I got to pop this thing. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Little in and out. No big deal. We're still living. I'm cooking live.
No big deal at all. And there are two... And we've said this every single match, but especially here, two DLC winners, and Zan almost qualifying for European Continentals, if not for that little bit of a mishap that he had in his second pod, where he accidentally sat down at the wrong table and played in a side event instead of the main event in round 3,
Oh,
and got dropped from his pod after he was 2-0. Which is super unfortunate. You hate to see that, but Zan almost qualifying for the European Continentals despite being a North American player who had qualified more than once for the North American Championships. But that's just a really unfortunate and funny story that Zan shared with everyone during his most recent podcast,
hey,
where he was playing Ruby Sapphire, actually, not Emerald Steel, because it was a bunch of Steel Song decks that he saw out there and wanted to bring the strongest deck for his pod. So he's super confident he would make it into Continentals. 5-0 his pod, no issue. And then he sat down at the wrong table and played the wrong match.
that is such a tragedy. I feel so bad, but it has to be kind of bittersweet as he is like as he's on the plane. I believe they announced that they are going to invite all of the DLC winners to get that automatic invite. All of the DLC winners get that automatic invite. So, and the players just switch sides again. So give me one more second as I have to. No, we're good. We're good. We are good. All right. So folks at home, it is time. We are ready. Let me get into the Discord. I can't even type. I can't even click. I can't do anything. I'm too motivated right now, but we are absolutely ready to get this thing underway. I will pull up the Discord here and we're going to be ready to start here soon. We're ready. I believe we're ready. Let's do it. We are good to go. We have Frank, Karsten. We have Zan, Syed, and we are going to be underway. This is there we go. Boom, boom, transition. There it is. And this is round number 4, and we are going to be underway. It looks like we got some shuffling taking place with that beautiful Cinderella mat and that beautiful regional championship gamer mat top 8. Zan's going to be on your left on my screen, and Frank is going to be on your right, and we are going to be ready to go. Let's do this.
Yeah, it looks like Zan's camera over here has a heartbeat of itself. It's getting so excited for this match. I'm super pumped for this. I think it's going to be one of the best matches that we've seen, and certainly one of the most anticipated for me personally. I hope everyone watching has been looking forward to this matchup specifically, because like you said, it is a world champion sort of preview between two DLC winners. They went ahead and rolled some dice here. Zan rolled a 1 and Frank rolled a 2. So we might have Amber Steel Song leading us off.
Let's do it. So Mulligan, I think Zan is still going to try to lean on that big Diablo shift cove play. I think that play is still good enough, but as each day goes by, that play gets worse and worse and worse because that genie effect is what I'm calling it. Everyone's got a plan for Genie. He's got 4 health. Diablo and Cove only has 3. So by happenstance, your best play is now not as good as it used to be, but I still think it might be decent enough in this match to try to mull for. What do you think Zan's going to mull for here in this one?
Yeah, I think that shift line is always very powerful. He is going second here, so you do run the risk of your little Diablo getting blasted away by a Let the Storm Rage On.
Mm-hmm.
And we do see that Frank in his hand does have that Cinderella one, the Let the Storm Rage On, which is a beautiful combo that you definitely want to see in your opening hand. Not a bad start from Frank. He definitely is looking to send back these 2 high-cost uninkables. You don't necessarily want to keep a whole new world in your opening hand. It's really bad if you draw into his second one, so he's going to send that back. He doesn't have a singer for it immediately. Unfortunately, we're not able to see Zan's hand, it doesn't look like, so we're just going to be taking a peek at Frank's here, but thinking about keeping his 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, and he has that 5-drop Robin Hood, which can probably just go straight into the inkwell if he doesn't draw a 1-drop Robin Hood.
Oh man, I'm starting to
Oh, think about sending that back too.
I'm starting to despise that one drop Cinderella so much because that is such a ferocious play to start a game off with. If you know, and like, especially when you're in the blind, you do your mulligan, you get your cards in, your opponent's going first. They ink one, put that Cinderella down, be like, oh, here we go with this, dude. Because this deck has a supreme high roll potential. It can steamroll anybody. It can blow you out of this thing if they're
Yeah.
just singing songs, getting value. If they're singing Whole New World, getting tremendous value, and they're just outpacing you as they're just continue to sing songs off A Whole New World. They have 15, 10, 11 characters on the board, and you have nothing, and they're just continuing to just keep the drum rolling. You just lose, and there's no there's no skill that can compensate that. But sometimes it also has a quite high uninkability factor to it, and you can just draw a bunch of uninkable cards and be bricked and unplayable and not be able to execute your game plan either. So interesting to see how
Yeah.
this thing goes down as the mulligans are complete. I believe maybe Zan has something wrong with his hand cam, so we'll be just one-siding it today, it appears.
Yep. And looking at Frank's side of the board, he did decide to keep that Robin Hood after thinking about sending it back. Okay, it looks like Zan's gonna go first, which is interesting.
Mm.
And Frank got the Robin Hood and the Lilo, which is pretty big. So Frank's about to show his hand to Zan, and I think it's a pretty good one. Here you have the decision, of course, to go with the Robin Hood or the Cinderella on one. Either do have the chance to get stormed by a Diablo, so that's something you have to think about if you're Frank. But these are the situations that I often struggle with against these steel decks. Do you just let it rip and go for the one drop, or do you play it safe and wait for your Mr. Smee on two? There's a lot of decisions to think about in this early game between these two decks. I think this is probably some of the most important decisions throughout the entire game, these first 3 turns.
Hold up. I think there might be some issues with the stream. Let me make sure the stream is going down. Let me hop in and check the background because I think if we can get a pause on the players and make sure that the stream is good, because people are saying they have some issues with the stream. I'm not seeing any issues on my side. Everything seems to be running great on my end. But I just want to make sure that everything is good for the viewers at home because I'm not seeing anything. Hey, just give me a 1 second pause if we can. Just want to make sure the stream is looking great before we continue on. It's always a lot of issues. It's always so much anxiety with these stream things and all this technology and whatnot. But it seemed like mine is going strong. I'm gonna tap into why. I'm gonna look at the stream myself. Little self stream.
Yeah, the stream looks like it's up on Twitch, but it has been dropping and restarting.
Really,
Yeah, not sure why that is happening,
I'm
but
not sure. It seems like I'm pinging all my data over here. I'm good on my end. I'm looking at it now. Everything seems to be on the up and up. So apologies for that. Technology, maybe some kind of solar flare, some type of issue in the stratosphere. Maybe we're just rocking way too hard in here. That could be a possibility. Stream looks good. We got some stream looks good out
it's back
there.
up.
Stream looks good. Everyone's saying stream looks good. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep it cash money moving then, if that's the case, because it seems like we're going to be good. I do have that delay on, so it might take a little bit of time to get back to it. But let's go ahead and keep it rocking and rolling if we continue on. So Ellie, if you can, let's go ahead and get the players started, and we're going to keep it going. We're going to go for the shift. Diablo coming in for Zan as you're going to put that thing down as you kick out the hypnotize, and then you'll send this thing on a quest. Perhaps you're probably counting on losing this thing right away, but you will get at least one card out of the play before you do that.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Zan. I mean, it's those risky plays where you come out, you put down your Diablo, you shift it, sort of hope that Frank doesn't have it. Unfortunately for him, Frank's got it, and that bird is going to be hit with some icicles, some inclement weather coming in soon, and Diablo is not long for this world.
Yeah, he's going to be able to sing it too. But a question for the judge: do you get a chance to draw? I don't think you can with that Diablo because it's going to be gone before
You do.
you do. Okay,
You can
okay,
draw, yes.
that's pretty cool. So you will get at least.
Because Let the Storm Rage On needs to resolve first, and then Diablo, I believe, gets a chance to draw.
Okay, so you will
So
at
he
least get
does
some
draw,
value that way. So that's cool. You got 2 cards out of the mix as your hand is kind of falling apart there. You only got 4. You got that Prince John, you got that Sudden Chill, you have that Captain Hook and the Ursula Singer, and Ah, man, maybe you can get some value out of this Prince John sudden chill situation if you can set all that up. If you can get that far, as we're going to go past with 7 cards in hand, it looks like. No, no, I'm sorry. We got 7 cards in hand. It looks like we're going to slam something to the Inkwell, and then we'll bring down the Robin Hood.
Yep, Robin Hood makes a lot of sense. Next turn, you can shift that 3/5, and now you just have a commanding presence on the board, something that Zan is going to have a lot of trouble dealing with, especially early on in the game. He doesn't have enough characters to sing something like Strength of Raging Fire to remove it, right? Doesn't even have the singer for it regardless, and it's not going to be till turn 5 when he can Bruno that. And there is the Hidden Cove. One turn too late.
Oh,
If he had that last turn, he'd be super chilling right now.
that is so unfortunate. But I have noticed in some of my experiments with green steel is that it doesn't top deck very well. Granted, a lot of decks in this game don't top deck very well, but this deck specifically, if you can manage to get all Zan's cards out of the hand, I know it's the discard deck and it's designed to get all your cards out of your hand, but if you can get all his cards out, I think you're top decking Prince John, you're top decking a bunch of discard cards, and you're going to be losing this board. And I think that could be a path to victory for Frank. And I'm sure he understands that, as Zan is going to keep those 3 cards in hand before kicking it back on over to Frank, who gets into that Simba.
Yeah, and Ursula onto the board could be the great equalizer. Let me speak correctly here for Zan here in the early game. If she's able to start singing, that could spell disaster for Frank. So he has a decision to make here. Are we just going to go ahead and shift the Robin Hood, get that popping off, or do we want to stop the Ursula from singing and potentially put the Pete down? I think maybe you just go for the Robin Hood shift here, but I'm no Frank Karsten.
For sure. I think if I'm Frank, I believe it might be shift time. I'm thinking he might be leaning on this shift. You got a big body on the board. I think that Robin Hood might be feeble, because if he does have a Let the Storm Rage on, double Ursula, you're drawing multiple cards. If you put another victim down to a Let the Storm, like he's looking like he's queuing up this Lilo to potentially go into the Inkwell perhaps, or if you put the Lilo down, that's a double target. I doubt he would do that, as we will go and slam that Lilo right on into the Inkwell, and then we're going to bring down the
Let's
Pete.
go for the Pete.
Wow, that's a cool play.
I think, honestly, Pete is pretty good here, because if Zan has Strength of Raging Fire plus another character, Ursula double singing that is going to get rid of your Robin Hood, and now you're no characters on board, and Zan's got 3, and you pretty much lose on the spot. So let's put Pete down. Let's make sure that the Ursula can't sing for a turn. Now, next turn, you can play Prince Naveen, let him sing Strength of Raging Fire, remove the Ursula, and now you're just playing safe. There's no way you're going to get blown out here. So putting the Pete down was definitely the correct choice. But Zan responds with his own Pete. So now you're not going to be able to Naveen Strength of a Raging Fire like he was probably planning on doing here next turn.
I absolutely love that back and forth. That was a really cool interaction, as you got double Pete's Peting each other out of that play. And also Ursula sing Sudden Chill with this Prince John loaded up next turn could be a super strong play for Zan if he can get that thing set up comfortably. But and now your Ursula is protected for another turn. So I think is it time to shift now? I'm so anxious, man. I don't know if it's ever the right time to shift, but perhaps getting that Robin Hood covered up with this bigger Robin Hood and also out of your hand could protect him and allow you to you're going to go for Naveen anyway. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think that he just doesn't want to get his large Robin Hood completely blown out. Naveen doesn't really have anything super great to sing right now. If it gets removed by something, you're not going to be too upset about it. But if your shift Robin Hood gets removed,
it's a double sing. That's right. Strength of Raging Fire times 2. I forgot Ursula's got the pipes, can sing that one as well. She can sing all the tunes in the deck, right? She can get everything. Okay, so yeah, that would be a terrible play. See, that's why I'm up here and not in there. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to do that. As we will go Ursula sing.
Interestingly, Frank typed into the chat, you all can't see it, but he let us know my turn 3 Pete was not the correct line, by the way. So he's thinking probably not the best thing to do in retrospect. I thought it out. I thought it was not a bad play, but maybe regretting that.
If he didn't say anything, I would have never known. It seemed good. Okay. It
So
seemed
let's
good.
ask the chat, what do you think the best play was on his turn 3? And we can ask him about it after the
For
match.
sure. Let's get a pen and write that down. But right now, we're able to grow this board. It's getting quite massive as the Ursula is doing her thing. We got that sudden chill play to go off with the Prince John. That's 2 free cards. And now your board is looking quite good if you're Zan, and your position
Mm-hmm.
looks way stronger than it did just a few short turns ago. As we're still kind of contemplating here, I'm not sure who's whose turn it is. As we're gonna, I think it still might be on Frank. He might be making some more considerations, or is it on Zan? The green box is not updated correctly. No, we're gonna go for
Yeah, it
the
is Zen.
hypnotize here into the inkwell.
Hypnotized into the ink. Yep. He's got 2 uninkables in his hand, so wants to make sure he has options going into the next turn. I believe that puts him on 5 ink, so the Ana could be an option to get rid of the last card in Frank's hand if he's left with one. And then you're leaving the Steel Song player top decking, which is not necessarily where you want to be. I'm sure he would have loved to see a whole new world potentially to refill his hand with his Naveen, but right now he's in a really tough spot. He's got the Robin Hood in hand. He can let the Storm Rage on to remove the Captain Hook or put damage onto something, draw another card to see some more options. But right now for Frank, looking pretty tough despite the strong start of the Cinderella let the Storm Rage on, the shifted Diablo.
I think, but the one benefit that you have going for Frank, and I'm sure he knows this, is that this green steel deck can't put on a lot of lore very quickly. So you will have time if you can just somehow withstand and get to that whole new world with the singer set up. You can immediately get back into the game. So it's never going to be over. You're both sitting at 1 and 0 on the lore total with 5 ink versus 2. I don't know if that 2 is correct. I think he has more ink down there, but it's still
Yeah, he's
going to
got
be
4.
a long great game. As we're getting into another storm rages on for Frank. As 2 cards now in hand, you can sing if you felt so inclined. This is just a tough spot. I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. Maybe it's simple, maybe it's not. What do you do with that Robin Hood? Do you put it down and try to what are you doing here?
Well, I think you want to empty your hand because he has Prince John on board. That's
Mm,
something you definitely want to do. I think potentially singing Let the Storm Rage On, or not singing, but hard casting Let the Storm Rage On here is not a bad play. And then you can go in with your Robin Hood to the Ursula, or you could go into Ursula with Prince Naveen, and then you have the opportunity to ink the card that you draw and play Robin Hood, or potentially ink the Robin Hood and play the card that you draw. But you want to get that hand empty for sure, so this Prince John does not accrue more value.
for sure. And it already has tremendous value already. As I believe Frank might be considering that play. It looks like Naveen is going to go horizontal there, taking down this Ursula, putting 2 damage on it. And then let's see if we continue on. We got another attack coming in, or another challenge coming in. No, quest, it looks like. And it will. Oh, he's thinking about it. Man, this is tough. Okay.
Yeah, Robin Hood's gonna go on a quest. I mean, the Pete could go into it, but it's not necessarily something that's you're gonna get super punished for questing here. Now Frank needs to decide what he wants to do with this Storm and this Robin Hood. But if I'm Frank, I think I want to get my hand empty here, so the Prince John doesn't draw more cards for Zan. But it looks like
Yeah, he's probably reluctant to go into
he's
top
just
deck mode,
casting.
trying
He
to find some
doesn't
more
even play the
value.
Robin Hood.
Probably trying to get some more value out of that Storm Rage on, and just saying you already sudden chilled me once. If you had it, you would have played it last turn or something. I don't think you got another one. You inked the hypnotize. I don't think you got another one. I'm gonna roll the dice, keep these 2 cards in my hand, and hope for a better target with this. Let the Storm Rage on. So now Zan is going to be in the think position. You got that Diablo. You have that Ana. You have the Ana has a target as well, which is looking quite juicy. Maybe you go for that and get this Naveen out of the equation, and maybe you can take down this board if you felt so inclined. These are decisions. I'm out of my depth. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you right here, chat world. If you guys are out here watching this, this is beyond my scope. So these guys, I'm trying to figure it out. But I think we're gonna go for the on a play now, and we will go for 5. Do you discard or pop? What do you do?
Yeah, I think getting rid of the Naveen is pretty solid here, and then you can remove something else with your Pete, potentially 2 for 1.
Okay, and I think that was a good play because you did have that Prince John set up to your point, and then you could have gotten another discard in with that on. It's such a versatile card, and I hope they continue to print cards like that too with just multiple effects because it does add another layer to the game. As we're going to bring out the Pete, we'll just go ahead and sing here, and we'll be able to sing to take down Pete. Pete singing. Let the storm rage on. Hilarious always as we get into that bodyguard Simba. Now we got another queued up card. What we're going to play here for Frank. More Robin Hoods.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, last turn I was thinking about potentially emptying the hand. If he did do the storm play, he would have drawn another Robin Hood. I believe he could have inked one and played one. But opted to keep the cards in his hand, not super worried about the potential discard coming
Mm-hmm.
from Zan. I mean, Zan did use the sudden chill already. He did ink a hypnotize, so Frank potentially just calling the bluff here, and the sudden chill does come in now with no cards in his hand, so that's completely useless currently for Zan. So heads up play, Frank at the top level poker table here, saying, I don't think you have the discard. I'll keep two in my hands.
And
And now the sudden chill comes in.
and now we do have that hidden cove. So you bring out Simba Bodyguard in normal mode instead of bodyguard mode, which is pretty cool. And then you'll have the Anna shift over to the hidden cove and able to swing on the Pete, take him down, and then you got another Diablo coming in. So this is looking quite good for Zan now as he's got his opponent in top deck mode. You got no singer set up, and you have this chunky Diablo sitting now in the cove comfortably with his companion, Prince John, by his side, and Anna over there tapped into the cove as well. So, or Prince John's not in the cove, but it's looking all aces for Zan now at this moment. But still, he has a long way
Ooh,
to go, a lot of lore to gain.
Cinderella stout hearted off the top, not what you want to see. Probably going into the inkwell here. I mean, maybe you hold on to it for her potential play down the line, but if it gets discarded, you get super crushed here. So, really, really tough position that Frank's in at the moment with this Hidden Cove down, with all these characters on board for Zan. He can't really challenge the Hidden Cove effectively with only 4 strength on board.
Yeah, I think if he was probably wishing if he was what's Cindy's a shift 5, right? I think he's wishing that
Fifth 5, yeah.
Robin Hood was a Cinderella right now because he'd be absolutely smoking it if he could shift that Cinderella into play. But you are correct; he'll just jam that bad girl into the inkwell right away and just keep these two characters on board as he's hoping for a change of circumstance. And Ariel would be pretty nice into a whole new world. Would be pretty cool if you can pull that off. So it's looking great for Zan, not so much for Frank here in this troublesome position as now you're thinking of what you want to challenge if you do want to challenge at all, and you'll like to leave both your characters ready and pass back on over to Zan.
Yeah, that was one of the worst cards that Frank could have pulled off the top. Plays the Hypnotize just to cycle and draw a card. You don't have to discard a card to draw a card off of Hypnotize. You can also do that with other cards. You don't necessarily need a target to get the draw effect off those cards. But we're just going to move Prince Strahd into the Cove, quest for 3, and pass it on over.
Yeah, so this is looking so good as now Diablo is going to be able to draw more cards. Prince John is still just sitting there menacingly, and you only have 2 cards in your entire possession, and they're quite feeble into the face of this bulky board created by Zan. Top deck mode central, you do get to a Lilo. Maybe you can get yourself to a position where you can quest out, but you're only sitting at 1, so that's going to be a long way to go. As we will generate this Lilo, add it to the field, zombie Lilo, they're calling it out here in the city streets, and we'll put that out into ready position as well. Man, it's how can Frank get out of this situation? I know he's a magic man. I know his mathematics has a deep mathematics background. How can Zan get? How can Frank get out of this conundrum that he's found himself in?
Hope that none of your characters get removed. You could find a Robin Hood to shift and take out the Cove. Like, that would be a good start, I guess. But,
Mm,
like, you're in such a tough position right now. Even if all your characters survived, you could not take out the Hidden Cove, but Muses is going to come down, and Zan's got 2 songs in his hand. All these characters are under 2 strengths. They're just going to get bounced up and down all day, into the hand, out of the hand, into the hand, out of the hand. It's going to be really rough for Frank to find a way to get back into this.
As we
Dan
will,
thinking about what get rid of. Yep.
yeah, we'll reveal the strength of a Raging Fire there, and we get a bounce too. Yeah, maybe putting that Lilo back too. This is just looking completely over. I mean, this is Green Steel in a nutshell. This is textbook Green Steel, what they're trying to do. Zan was able to negotiate that early game quite well. It was looking kind of sad there early, but he managed to pull through, got some tremendous value out of that Prince John, and it just snowballed into what you see before you on your screen. But Frank is no chump. He's never going to give up. He's always going to maintain a winning attitude and play it through. So we're going to see what he can do to pull back out of this thing, as
Ooh.
hitting that symbol was looking phenomenal, as that top deck would have been pretty good. Getting that new Floodborn Simba into the game. We'll still slam it onto the field. We'll bring the Robin Hood back as well. Oh man, what do you think about that new Simba card? I like it a lot. I like it. I'm a
I
fan.
do like it a lot. Yeah, I was inspired by Frank, so I played his deck at PAX for one of the events
Mm-hmm.
after I played Ruby Amethyst for 2 straight days. I got absolutely blown out, so I'm no Amber Steel song player, but I did pop off with Simba one game, and it was a lot of fun. Very, very interesting card, awesome design, and works great with that Lilo there. And we
Absolutely.
saw Frank use it to great effect earlier in the Lorcana Cross Continental Challenge, where he's able to shift onto an exerted Simba, ready all his characters, and win the game, which was an amazing show of skill, where a lot of the other top level players in the chat were going crazy because they didn't even see that line.
Mm,
So
I really enjoyed that. Oh, we got a chat. I think the judge called out the sudden chill didn't go to the bottom. It should have gone to the bottom. I believe it was caught later on and then placed into the bottom. If not, we'll get that updated. Thank you so much, chat. We're catching up. Hopefully the stream is looking good. I always get so anxious. You mentioned that we're no longer in the layer. You've joined the Goat World stream. I'm out here running the numbers and doing the buttons back here. So it's always a little bit of anxiety when the stream is having some issues, but I'm glad that they seem to have resolved, as we're just going to cleanly Bruno this Simba, and then the Muses get another opportunity to bounce a card. If you
yep.
felt so inclined, you could.
Yeah, that we don't talk about Bruno card. It sometimes operates as an inkable Dragonfire in Emerald Steel when there are no cards in the hand. Pay 5 or sing to remove something. And now is the option to play Morph or play the Dock. The one of Dock could come down here, discard the Morph, get 2 additional cards. You have some Singers on board, so getting rid of the Morph doesn't seem that big of a deal. Not super valuable at this moment. Finds another Prince John and a Let the Storm Rajon. So more questing power and more damage to be dealt. And we're going to see the Storm come down onto the Lilo, putting her into the discard.
I mean, there a world? I mean, there's only one Naveen in the deck. We've already saw him succumb to his wounds as well. Is there a world where we can get a whole new world or something, flood this board and get back into this thing? I think it might be a little too late. I think this game might be absolutely over, as we got a firm demonstration of Green's Emerald Steel in its peak condition. This is what it looks like. This is what people don't like when they're sitting down at their store championships, or you got your locals, or you have your game nights, whatever you're doing, and you got to play against this deck, and this happens to you. It's just so unfun. But man, oh man, you better have a plan. You better be ready. People say this deck is dying or it's going out of the format. I don't think that's the case. I think people will always play this deck because it's always going to be good, because it can do stuff like this. What do you think about the metagame right now, Green Steel specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an Emerald Seal player. As I was talking about earlier, I think it's gone down a little bit, but it's still an extremely powerful strategy. And if you're one of the top players, I think it is one of the 2 best decks that you could be playing, especially if you're trying to go to an LCQ. You can definitely wield this deck with great power and outskill your opponent, but that looks like it's going to be it. There wasn't really much that Frank could do. Even if you got a whole new world, there was an exerted Diablo out there, and Zan's going to draw 14. So we're just going to shuffle up and go to the next one. So North America takes game number 1, and maybe it all comes down to that turn 3 Plague deciding to go for Pete instead of the Robin Hood, which would have been safe, but there was a potential world out there. Maybe Frank Karsten looked into the time stone and saw that Ursula could sing the Strength of Raging Fire twice to remove my Robin Hood, so let me just go the safe route and go with Pete. But if he doesn't have that exact card Robin Hood sort of runs away with the game here. So he thought it was a mistake. We'll have to see what he really thought about it at the end of the match. But we're going into game number 2, JDZ.
Oh man.
What are you thinking about game number 2
But
here?
to your point, on this level of play, I think it's just going to come down to one thing, one play, one ink, one quest, one card. I mean, there is no room for any type of error. And if Frank says it's an error, it's probably an error. I didn't even notice it. I thought the Pete play was great. I didn't know, that hey, maybe no Pete here and go for the Robin Hood play. I agree with, because you had the singer set up, you want to protect your stuff. It seemed very, it's like a great play to me, but that's all it takes. That's all it takes on this level of play, man. This is a trading card game, and when you sit down and say I'm going to play a trading card game, you have to sign up for the RNG. You have to sign up for the
Yep.
variants. If you want to play a different game, chess is readily available. Go play that, because if you want that only skill only game, this is not that. So there's going to be a luck piece into it. But what I'm always impressed by in all these trading card games is that these players that continue to win double Mickeys, multiple titles over multiple different formats, over multiple different games, how do they manage that variance? How do they get, how are they just luckier than everyone else? I don't think that's the case. I think there's definitely a skill expression in this game. This game might have these beautiful cards, these beautiful artworks of these Disney things we come to know and love, but this game is quite challenging, and there is a significant skill expression. So I'm excited to see how these guys can do it. One misplay by Frank, and that probably cost him the match. That's all it takes.
Yeah, that's how it goes, especially at this top level. Making one mistake can completely swing the game. And as you said, Frank said that was a mistake. So we got to go with him on this one. But yeah, these players are able to mitigate the variance in this game with their skill and their high level play. And that's why we see them going to top cut after all of these DLCs, after DLC, after DLC. Why are they making top 64 every single time? They're really, really good.
It might have just a little something to do with it. You can build your deck very well. You understand the metagame very well, and you understand what needs to happen. You know how to mulligan. There is a lot of things that you have to know. You're not just, oh, let me just get lucky. Oh, I just drew this and I got here. No, no, no. There is some luck. I guarantee if you talk to any of these guys, they're gonna say, hey, I got lucky at this point. I got lucky at that
Yep.
point. But luck is where skill meets preparation. As we are ready to go, it looks like the players are locked in. They got shuffling going. We're ready, man. Oh my goodness. Let's see if Frank now can come in and get the opportunity to demonstrate what this Amber Steel is trying to do. We got a full demonstration of what the Emerald Steel is doing. Now let's see if we can get an Amber Steel demonstration of what they're trying to do, and then we get the all-important game number 3. I'm all here for it.
Yeah, I would love to see that, and I would love to see all the cars that I talked about and was hyping up at the beginning before this match started. I'd like to see them come down and resolve. I'd really like to see I'm Still Here play a big role in this match. I think this is the matchup where it can shine, drawing a card and giving resist +2. And also, we, of course, want to see Simba go off. We want to see all these one-ofs come down. We saw the Pete last game. Maybe we'll see some Lawrence action, some Gantu action.
Oh, I forgot that.
I'm
I forgot that Captain Cranky Head is just sitting there. I forgot he was in there. He's in the deck. Oh man. So let's see. I think what Frank's gonna have to do, he's gonna have to resist. Okay, he's gonna have to high roll this thing, get that whole new world going. But I don't think you can keep it in your initial mulligan phase, because Ursula's still available. It's only at 3 in the deck, but it's still a thing that can happen to you and rip that card from your hand. So you're gonna have to aerial into. I believe he's playing aerial. He is playing aerial, right? I'm losing my mind. Oh, that's
Yep.
Yeah, he has got the aerials in there. It's DeCandio who's not playing the aerials, but get the aerial, get the freaking whole new world. Hopefully have another singer set up, sing it, and just blow this game wide open is probably what you're going to hope can happen to you as you're going to be on the approach. I don't know what this matchup is. I think it's pretty close to a 50-50 if I had to call it, but I don't know. We'll see how this thing shapes up, as Zan just completely got loose on that game number 1. Looking at the hand, it's looking pretty strong. Never mind. No, it's not.
Yeah.
You don't have any 1-drops in there. Forget I said anything.
Yeah, it's pretty rough on Frank's side of the board. He's got 3 uninkables that all cost 4 or more, 2 4-drops, a 2-drop you don't necessarily want to see on turn 2, and a 3-drop. So I think we might see a heavy mulligan on his side, or excuse me, a heavy alter on Frank's side. And on the heartbeat cam over here for Zan, he's got double hypnotize, a Diablo, Muses Pete, and what is that? Bruno and Doc.
Bruno and is it a Peter? It's a Doc. It is a Doc. It is a Doc. Okay. And it looks like we're sending back heavy here. We're sending 5, and you're holding on to Muses and Pete. That is, I would have got that wrong. Okay, I just failed the test again. Okay, I'm all in on this Diablo Cove situation, but you're going second, so that play is probably not as good as you
Yep.
stated earlier. So he gets into.
Ursula
Sorry, go ahead.
Ursula really good on turn 2 going second for Zan, and that's exactly what he finds. Frank sent back 7, which I don't blame him.
I
The
don't blame
hand
him
was
either. That hand was looking
pretty rough.
pretty chalked up. So
Yeah.
that's one good thing going for you. You send all those cards back, you have a lower opportunity of getting those same cards back again. So maybe you can get some of those 1-drops. You're going first. You want that very threatening Cinderella play to open up, and you got it in hand there. And you got a song to go along with it. So that's a pretty cool play. It terrifies me when I'm playing this game in my local area. I have a lot of Steel Song players here. They open that Cindy, and I'm just like, oh, here we go with this. What do? I don't know how to break this. I got to put my one guy out, and he dies, or gets banished, and then or I do nothing and I get cooked anyway. So it's like it's a tough situation to navigate sometimes. As we're going to go for it right here, as the Cinderella has spawned onto the field, and Zan is going to be on the approach.
Does draw the Cove, so can play that on turn 1 if he would like. Does not have the Diablo Maleficent, or sorry, it's the pet, I believe, right? Or no, it's Maleficent Spy on turn 1, but doesn't go for the Cove, but has this powerful Ursula on turn 2, which is more than likely going to take this Let the Storm Rage on out of Frank's hand. But we do see the shift line open up for the Simba on the turn 3, which could be huge. So maybe Zan, when he sees this hand, will opt to take the Zeus instead.
Okay.
Because the Simba will be able to sing that on turn 3.
I think but that is a good way to break up this play too, with this Ursula. Play no characters on 1, Ursula on 2, rip it from the hand, and you're kind of smooth sailing. But that's going to be an interesting take, and giving Zan perfect information. I think this Ursula card is way too broken, because you're giving the player perfect information as well, and that is in the hands of a competent player. That's also dangerous in this game as well. So we are going to ink the Lilo. We will set up that Simba, like you said. So we got a powerful shift line that can come in as well, and Zan is going to be on the approach now, so probably going to jam this Ursula in. I'm not sure if that's right now. I don't know what's going on. Cat's up's down, down is up. Probably.
If he doesn't play Ursula here, I would be shocked.
Yeah,
But if he doesn't, then he is on another level than you and I.
Yeah, he's definitely going to play it. That's the only 2 cost in hand, and he will have to develop that right now. Take a sneak peek of the hand and get some value here. Let's see this choice. Let's see if you're going to take the Storm or will you take the Zeus. I think both are going to be mighty choices.
Yeah, the Zeus lets you remove bigger characters, but the Storm allows Frank to draw a card. So it's a really, really interesting option here. You can always Pete next turn to stop the Zeus from removing something. But yeah, it's really interesting because we are going into turn 3. He could play the Diablo, but now he knows there's a Zeus there, so might opt for something else on Zan's turn 3.
Okay, so he did elect to take the Storm Rage on and pass it there. So now it looks like we're thumbing up this Pooh Piglet Pirate, probably going to throw him into the Inkwell perhaps. And let's see if we set up this shift now or not, because that Zeus, even taking on the Hidden Cove, is not the worst thing. The Simba will be able to ready again. I don't think it's the worst, but it looks like we got the Smee now. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh man. What are we doing?
Yeah, that is a one of Piglet in the deck, so maybe he wants to keep it to have lore pressure available to him later on, but he might just play it out here. He's thinking about his options. The shift Simba just seems so juicy to me that like I would just go for it immediately. I wonder what could punish you for doing that play.
Maybe he's afraid of those songs too. Maybe you can spread the board a little bit more and get those Storm Rage on, because Simba is he's kind of big, but that 4 is that so middling stat that you can kind of reach out and grab that if you can flood this board a little bit. As we will ink the Pooh Piglet Pirate, and then it looks like the Smee is coming in, so maybe you're going to try to start questing up and get that lore going, if that's the plan. As you're only sitting at 1 still, 2 and 3 in the Inkwell now. you gotta start making some moves too, as your deck is not providing you with the resources you need. As Smee is now down, and you will start to quest up, Simba will execute bodyguard mode.
Yeah, could be a case of, hey, I want to keep this Simba for a turn 4 play, right? Instead of shifting, keep the bodyguard Simba out there. That way I have an even wider board for potential Strength of Raging Fire, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you 3 questing power as compared to just 2 that shifting the Simba would do. So you essentially lose your shift option, that is the bodyguard Simba, if you do choose to shift it. And there is, you know, the option that having the little one gives you, which is that additional 2 strength. So they can challenge for a total of 6 if you choose not to shift, right? So very, very hard decision for Frank. I'm sure we saw him think about it there for a while, but opts to go with the Smee and have a wider board instead of a taller one.
I like it. And you can start to quest. I mean, because Zan's deck is kind of going a little bit slower than it typically does. You still have all these resources in your hand. And I guess somewhere in the back of your mind, too, you have to start thinking, maybe I need to put these guys into the field before he starts to get to the discard cards, ripping these cards from my hand. So that could be something he's thinking about. Smee, also that 2 lore. Maybe you can just start running the race now before you run out of hand gas. I'm not sure what the correct play is. I'm not much of a Steel Song player, but that's what I would be thinking. Hey, I need to just try to win the game right here from this point, and hopefully these Smees are good enough, and maybe I can Smee into a Rapunzel. But he will not take that advice. We'll just jam that Smee right on into the Inkwell and start to try to reduce your hand that way, and maybe go for the shift.
Yeah, I think he's thinking about, well, if I play the Simba, then I only have 1 card in hand, and if he has any discard, then I just lose this very, very powerful Zeus, which stinks, but I mean, you kind of have to play Simba here. I guess you could just ink and not play Simba to try and play around the potential discard that Zan could have, and likely does have with 5 cards in hand. So it's another tough choice for Frank, but he does decide to end up shifting it the turn after he could have shifted it last turn and potentially sung the Zeus, but decides to quest with Mr. Smee here. And another interesting set of choices here that I would certainly like to know a little bit more about after the match.
For sure, we got to write some of these critical moments down, because it's very rare that you get the opportunity to get the milk directly from the cow. You know, you got right from the horse's mouth,
right,
and kind of talk to these players in this game. As I stated before, if it's not for this LCCC, this match is a dream match. It probably would never happen unless it's in the World Championship. And these both of these players are World Championship qualified already based on their performance from the regular season, winning those golden Mickeys and getting first place in DLCs. So I would love to hear what they say about this match, how the breakdown went, what the favorites are, and just kind of hear what they have to say. So make sure you stay tuned at the end of this match, and we can sit down with both of these players and talk to them about how they think it went. As it looks like Frank is kind of getting behind on board again. You're going to need to get to one of those whole new worlds quickly with this Simba set up. If he can last, I think you can probably take him. No, you inked the Strength of a Raging Fire earlier, so you can't take the Simba out now. But if you could top a whole new world here, you can kind of crack back into this game. But no, you can't. This double Pete blows the whistle again, and that is a backbreaker. Almost. It feels terrible.
Yeah, you got that Pete off the top, preventing this Zeus from coming down for another turn.
But you will get another chance to draw another. Hopefully, you don't have anything that can. If you do draw this whole new world, they don't have another Ursula coming down. But it looks like you could. Is there a world where you could? I can't see Zan's ink. That black card back is kind of obscuring my vision a little bit. But could
He
you
should
play?
be at 4. That was his turn 4, so he'll be coming up on 5.
Okay, so he can't muse bounce Ursula, bring back Ursula this next turn. So you're kind of safe from that play a little bit, and just start ripping your stuff. As we get to the guard dog Pluto, I think getting him in the fray as well. Get him on in there, and let's get him into protective mode and just start questing perhaps, and just perhaps that could be a viable strategy. But that hidden cove is spooling up as well. You get both of those Pete's in that hidden cove. They get so strong, and they can take down that Pluto or whatever, or they'll have to trade with him. or he can strength them and then take down the Pluto and start clearing that board. So Frank has to be thinking about all these different things. And I probably would have lost 5 turns ago, but he's still trying to make he's still trying to make a game out of it in this very, very tight situation. So let's see what he does with this Pluto guard dog. It looks like we will prepare him to come on in thinking, damn.
Yeah, really, really unfortunate for Frank that Zan was able to get another Pete off the top, because this turn he'd be feeling so good. He'd be able to remove something with Zeus, likely one of the Petes, and then he could, start questing and readying his characters with Simba. He'd have the Pluto guard dog in bodyguard mode,
Mm-hmm.
but actually, I believe the Simba. This was actually a question I had for one of the judges, and Ellie or Phil can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the judge call that I had gotten when I was at PAX, because this had come up. I had a Simba out and I wanted to bodyguard with my Pluto, and I said, "Can I ready everybody except Pluto?" And I was not allowed to do that. It was ready them all or ready none of them,
Really? That's crazy. What if,
because
yeah,
I wanted to protect my Simba
right.
with my Pluto, but I was not able to do that. So
That's
that's what
interesting.
the judge told me. Yeah.
That is interesting. I had no idea. I thought you could choose, but I guess not. And I guess bodyguard is trumped by Simba's effect. I'm glad I learned something today. As we got Spessy is in the building. Yo, Spessy said I was talking smack after the event. Said I would beat Frank 2-0. Then I beat Zan 2. Oh, you know I beat Zan 2. I'm calling cap. Let me see it. Let me see it. Frank beat me 2-0, so I didn't. Oh, you said you're gonna beat both of them back to back. Well, that's tough. That's tough. That's an uphill climb. That's an uphill climb. Good luck. Good luck with that. But shout out to Spessy, and shout out to all of the other streamers and broadcasters that have been participating in this thing as well. It's been a great joy and pleasure as we have the Pluto guard. We're thinking long and hard about it. I mean, what do you do? Do you put him out and get him readied? What? Of course, right? I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think you have to. Yeah, he just plays him ready because he knows it's gonna get readied anyway. Um, so the Simba will be left exerted. Unfortunately, that's a little bit of a drawback of the Simba. If it was
Mm,
worded a little bit differently, like you may ready as many as you'd like instead of ready all, then you would be able to do this powerful option of putting the Pluto out and protecting the Simba, which would of course be huge. But thinking about readying these characters, like I feel like you have to, right?
yeah, I think it's
Because
mandatory.
you
Just
played the Pluto already.
yeah, maybe he just puts him in
No,
bodyguard and
no.
leaves him down and doesn't and chooses not
Yep.
to and let the Smee take another damage. This is heads up. This could be the play. This way, you can almost guarantee that you can get someone to sing this "Along Came Zeus" that next following turn. So I don't hate this at all. I would have, man, this
Hmm.
is complex. That's some complex stuff. So we have the Simba, we have the bodyguard, we have the Cinderella, and Smee will take another damage. It looks like, or no, he takes the. Is he only on one? Is that the same one, or is he now at two?
After this turn, it will be a 2.
No, I think
I
he's
think
still
he's
thinking about it. He's still
still.
contemplating. No, he's
Yep.
going to ready. He will
That
ready.
was
He will
ready
ready.
him.
Okay. Okay. So a lot of back and forth, a lot of thought. I'm sure everything that we have considered, he has considered multiple times already. And just keep in mind, for all the viewers at home, that you can't see anything below these blue boxes. So Frank is operating on the information just that is available on Zan's playmat here. So he doesn't know what's in the hand. He doesn't know what outs his opponent has. He has to do all this in the blind. And we have perfect information. So maybe we have a little bit, you know, a different eye view of what's going down. So just keep that in mind that they cannot see what is below this
Yeah.
blue bar here. Before everybody's like, "Oh, misplay, you should do that." Well, we got perfect information, so it's a lot different. And also, when you're in the game, it's a lot different than being out of the game, trying to observe, looking in. So we have everyone ready, and we're kicking it back over to Zan, who has that beast in hand. We have the Cove, we have the Prince John, Diablo, Strength of Raging Fire, and Muses. Maybe there's a world he's still trying to set up this Muse loop with this Ursula. If he can get up to 6 or get up to enough ink to set that play up for a later turn, I think it could come up huge if he felt so inclined. But if you look at that lore total, Frank's now sitting at 10. He's halfway there, and Zan's going to have to start answering this board before he just runs away with the game lore wise.
Yeah. This turn would be really, really tempting to Strength of a Raging Fire onto that Simba, potentially play the Muses and bounce the Cinderella as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's not terrible. It looks like he's going for the Muses onto the board. And he is going to sing that Strength of a Raging Fire, taking out the Simba Shirley and bouncing back the Cinderella. So heads up for Frank there. If the Pluto was exerted, Zan could run the Ursula
Mm-hmm.
into the Pluto and potentially bounce the Pluto back.
Or potentially lose this. He could have lost his whole board had that play gone a little bit different. Frank could have, I think, if that thing would have gone a little bit different. If that Pluto had got popped, he could just crash in, take it down, and then bounce everything else. I think that could have been a mess, just leaving him with that one damaged Smee. So I think that was a great play from both players, actually, as now we have this Warded Muses set up who's going to kind of be around for a while. You have those double Pete's, but you do finally have a singer established that can
Yep.
that can sing this Strength of a Raging Fire, or the Long Came Zeus.
There's Ariel. Ariel off the top is pretty tempting as well. I mean, you can always sing the Zeus, so let's get some more options for Frank into the hand, I think, with an Ariel down onto the board. If you get another song that could potentially push you forward into this game, that would be huge.
Let's see it. 1, 2, 3, 4. We just don't need a whiff. Are we whiffing? Oh,
Oh,
critical. Oh, no. Ariel, you let me down.
brutal.
As you get a big whiff there. The whifferino, no songs added to the hand. That stings the nostrils when that goes down. I love it personally when I'm
Yep.
playing against the Steel Song players and they do that. I'm all for it, but I
I'm
can't
like,
imagine.
oh man, sorry, dude. I mean, my mind like villain laughing. Yes.
Your fist pumping hard. Oh my goodness. I love it. I'm such a fan when they're like, oh, I got nothing. Miss. Checkmate. Let's go. So Frank's got to be a little upset, but you know what? He's a pro. He's been here before. As we're going to send the Pluto in. We'll continue to contemplate. Maybe putting that Cindy back in, just hoping for some more top deck cool songs. Is it ever a world where we sing this Zeus because he hasn't played any discard cards yet? There's none. So that the fact that Zeus has been around for so long is quite incredible. As we'll ink the Cinderella and probably singing this Zeus. Perhaps I still don't have a great target to hit with it. Maybe one of these
Yeah.
Plutos on the Zeus, that doesn't feel good. You want to hit something way more juicy than that. As Zan has been hanging on, clutching this Hidden Cove for years now, waiting for that Zeus to finally expire, and it does. So I fully expect that Hidden Cove to kind of get utilized on his following turn as this Smee is gearing up for a quest.
Yeah, unfortunately, Pete was the best option there, and with only one card in hand, you cannot run the risk of Zan playing a discard card and getting rid of that Zeus that you've been holding on to for so long. So we'll see if he decides to quest here. He does have the Pluto bodyguard out defending, so the Smee could feel a little bit safe. I mean, on board, the Pluto is not getting removed.
Mm-hmm.
So Smee pretty safe to quest here unless there's, removal that Zan has in his hand. But Frank needs to get to 20 and get to 20 pretty quickly here with no cards in hand. Zan with 4, but Zan not with a ton of options himself. The Hidden Cove does look good, obviously, gives all of his characters additional strength, and with that would be able to remove the Pluto, I believe, but then would leave his characters available for a crackback, so the Smee could get in there, take down the Muses if that were to happen. But Zan's got an interesting few choices here. With no songs, decides to ink the Ursula.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all, man. But I think Frank's got some tremendous top decks in this thing, though. He's gone through some serious cards. He got some phenomenal cards in his top deck. But now we do have that Cove, and we are going to be able to slam into the bodyguard, it looks like, making him significantly weaker. And then Pete will be able to take it down, I believe, with the Hidden Cove buff. And now you got it set up.
Oh, right. Yep.
And you got it set up now. So you're going to take down the Shmi as well. So Smee is gone. And it's all comes down to this as Diablo flocks in at the last moment to just put himself into a key position to start blowing away this game. And now Frank needs a unit. He
Yeah, for
needs it.
some reason I was thinking Pluto had 6 6 willpower, but it does only have 5, so it does get removed by the Pete Ursula combo there, which is pretty big. We'll see what he has. If it was like a Simba or Robin Hood, feels so bad. Oh
Oh, you
man.
called it. You
He
absolutely
showed it,
called it.
and now we're in the same situation we were last game. That aerial whiffing was so bad for Frank. Now we're just okay. Zan's got a bunch of characters on board. He's got a hidden cove. I've got a Robin Hood on board. Like,
But at the same time, he has no removal, so he does have this single
yeah,
5 aerial set up, and he still has some active top deck. He does have a lot of not great top decks too, as we just saw, but he has a lot of good top decks still. As a top deck whole new world, you almost have to play it. A top deck anything, I think you got to play it no matter what it is. But because this game is now Zan is where he needs to be. He's kind
yep.
of putting himself in that constrictor position where they can start. He's only at 2 on the lore, but that doesn't matter because as we know, this deck requires a lot of setup and a lot of bodies, and then you start questing after you get the stranglehold put on your adversary, and it's kind of he could feel it kind of slipping away from Frank's position. But you have some dramatic top decks, even though the whole new world isn't as good as it once was, with Zan only hanging on to 1 card. And he has the Exerted Diablo for a plus 14, as you stated last time. So we'll see
Yep.
what's going to be as we got another top deck. Can you get 8
Yeah,
though?
unfortunately for Frank, he's definitely got good top decks, but he's got a lot of bad ones. He's got 4 Cinderella 1-drops, got the 4 Robin Hoods, 4 Simbas, 4 Lilos. Like, those are just cards you don't want to see at this point. Pete's okay.
Yeah, Pete's okay. I think you just jam this guy sideways and just get a lore maybe, and just throw him off. Just make a Robin Hood sacrifice. Throw him to the wolves. Get that lore. Go to go to 13, and maybe you can squeeze 7 out of this position. But I don't see 7 coming, especially with that Storm Rage on that Zan has in hand now from that Diablo trigger. So he's probably going to start,
Yeah.
but he can't do it next turn because Pete's going to be able to block. As we will go on a quest, it looks like. No, we're going to go for a challenge into the cove.
Yeah, wants to try to potentially remove that cove next turn with the Ariel and the Pete combination, which you definitely can do. I was thinking maybe you just do nothing, like you Pete and pass and hope for a Robin Hood
Mm-hmm.
5-drop top deck,
Oh,
but next turn he's setting himself up for the guaranteed removal of the Hidden Cove. Will lose some of his characters in the process, including his Singer 5, but he needs to do something to try and battle for the board here.
as we're continuing to just flood more lore onto the board now, as those Prince Johns can quest for 2 for whatever reason. Yep. They're out there getting active, taxing viciously. You got no hand, but that's your win condition, as he's going to start to close the gap even more in the following turns. That board is looking quite wide, as you're threatening 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 now. So you're 2 turns away from well, not 2 turns away. You're pretty close. You're 2.5 turns away, I would say, from victory here from Zan, if you can't manage to come after this board. So it's looking down again for Frank. Again, it's never over. But man, oh man, you got a long way to go.
Yeah, definitely have a ways to go at this point, and it's looking pretty doomed right now for Europe. I'm not gonna lie. No grab your sword available to Frank in his Amber Steel build here, and that'd be. I mean, even at this point, you're not removing anything because of the cove, but it would give you a fighting chance. Like, if you got rid of the cove and then you hard cast grab your sword,
You're so back.
now
You're
so back.
You're so
you
back.
Probably win, right?
Yeah,
So,
you've been a great spot.
but
I don't know if this deck
not
plays.
in the deck,
This deck,
unfortunately.
they've cut grab your swords from this deck, from both of these decks. I know there was a short time where the green steel deck played grab your swords, and I know that the amber steel deck played grab your swords for a time. But that card has almost been removed from the game. Maybe it's uninkable and it's not as good as it once was. But we will go ahead and take down the cove now. We will lose a couple of characters in the process. But man, oh man, it is looking good. And we got a Zeus. Zeus will be able to take down the Diablo. And all of a sudden, I mean, you're still down horrendous, but you're not that down as bad as you once were.
You're not down catastrophic anymore. Just horrendous. Hopefully we can get to down bad, and then we can get to up. So we'll see if Frank is able to claw his way back. That's definitely a start.
Man, you're
The
killing
Zeus
me.
was pretty good there to get rid of the Diablo, but
Sorry. Sorry, I'm
Zan
not.
has options.
I gotta shake it off. I'm supposed to be professional, dude. That's killing me.
You're good. We're having fun, we're light, we're loose.
That was good. That was good. I enjoyed that a lot. All right. All right. So it looks like Zan's going to think about as we get into we have the hook. We got the hook back in the deck, and we have the Let the Storm Rage on. We have the We Don't Talk About Bruno. So probably can, you probably can clear this board if you felt so inclined. If you wanted to get rid of the Pete and then Bruno, or no, you're not Muse Bounce. You're never Muse Bouncing this aerial. That's crazy. We're not doing that, right? As we will hard cast. Oh, you would get a plus too. Yeah, you pop the aerial, and you'll get a plus 2 from the double Prince John, getting into 2 more hidden coves. Man,
2 hidden coves. Unfortunately, you can't put cove and cove to give it more willpower and strength. Could you imagine?
that'd be so cool though. I would love that.
Let's make a location with strength, so when you challenge into it, like it does one or
you're
something.
getting hit back. I like that. Come on, Ragersburger, make it happen. Make it happen.
That sounds cool.
And then so it looks like you put a lot of resources into getting rid of the hidden cove last time, and it looks like you have another hidden cove potentially coming your way again. So this card has just absolutely supported this, especially in set 5. That hidden cove was going crazy, man. Such a crazy card. A lot of people were talking about ban Diablo, Diablo's so broken. I think it was the hidden cove that was doing way more damage than this dang Diablo, because that put Diablo in the cove, and it's just so hard to get him out of there in that set 5 meta as it came in towards the end there. As we're still top deck central, we will get into the Storm Rage on.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can help you cycle here and maybe find something else. Thinking about playing it out for the ink cost instead of singing.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for options.
As
maybe you high roll, storm your Pete, draw Rapunzel. No, you can't even do that because you'd have to sing. You have to sing Storm onto your own Pete.
Bro, sing Storm top deck Rapunzel would be some next level maneuver. That'd be crazy. I don't. That'd be nuts. And we will go hard cast 3. The only person you can hit is that Captain Hook, as you got a lot of ward over there on that Emerald Steel deck. We will hit the Hook, but he is going to be impervious. He lives, doesn't he? Because that only does 2, and he's in Cove, and Cove has 3. Was he not in Cove? I might be mistaken. It looked like he was in. It looked like he was in Cove. And it looked like he was in Cove, as that 2. That only does 2 damage, and Hook has 3 in the health. But I guess I was incorrect, as we'll just go ahead and slam into one of those Prince Johns, take him out of there. We get into the aerial, so maybe there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance.
Enough ink to play it, right? Or is this incorrect? He only has 2 ink, I think, so he can't even play it.
Oh yeah, I saw another one over there, because sometimes the ink counter doesn't get updated correctly. But that would have been nice if you got that down.
Luckily, there's no discard for Frank in Zan's hand. But we do have Let the Storm Rage on, and with his limited cards, Frank has been able to sort of battle back here. It's unfortunate that Zan got another Cove. There's another Let the Storm Rage on.
And he will go ahead and Muse Bounce itself to completely heal. Very cool technique. Muses is another very dynamic card in this game that just adds so many layers that you can do really cool things with that card. I think it's strategically underplayed. I think it's a super, super cool card. Very balanced. As you can bounce your opponent's stuff, just do some really cool things. As you're going to go ahead and slam the aerial, the Spectacular Singer. Let's see if you can hit this time. If not, Ariel's going on a trip. I'm punting Ariel. I'm getting rid. I'm a drop kick Ariel right up out here as we get into the strength of a Raging Fire. The only thing you can hit is that Ursula, but I don't think you have the ink. I guess you can. No, you don't have the ink in order to deploy it.
Yeah, you just have to hope that Zan doesn't have a song. And, maybe you stick the Robin Hood and you can do something with Ariel, but he does have a song. He's got Let the Storm Rage on, so he can...
And it looks like he just drew into a sudden chill as well, so he's got double songs. He could just bounce your whole board with this Muse or just blow them all up and then just completely quest. I think this is Zan's match to lose. It's going to take a miracle for Frank to get out of this, as there is a sudden chill in hand. and he's got that Ursula too. He's got the music. This is just looking completely lost for Frank. Unfortunate as it may sound, as we will go ahead and Storm Rage on double tap. It looks like for 2 more cards. No, double sing once, bounce, and then we have the double tap for the sudden chill. Very good sequence there, as you're able to take both cards and get some draws. Man, this deck is broken when it's doing stuff like that. Holy.
Yeah, you could say the same thing about Amber Steel Song, right? When it pops off, like we were saying earlier, it pops off.
Oh man.
But when it doesn't, you know, sometimes you get into situations like this where you're just top decking little cards that do nothing,
and
where there comes a fist bump and it's over.
And it's going to be a
yeah.
GG. So Zan comes in and gets the better of Frank in this all contested match. Unfortunately, Frank's deck didn't get the chance to demonstrate its high roll potential, as Zan was able to come out and control it from beginning to end in both of those games with a lot of the Emerald Steel mainstays that we've come to know and love. But still, I think it was a fantastic match. I still learned a lot. Hopefully you all out there had a great time watching as well. We're going to see if we can wrangle the players to get them to come on in to talk to us about their strategies and about this metagame and about how they thought that match went, as we have the Hall of Famer Frank Karsten himself is in the booth and in the building right now. Guns up to the real one. Yo, Frank, how are you doing? We saw that matchup. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way that you would have liked. You didn't get a chance to demonstrate what your deck is designed to do. But still, I would like to hear from you. Talk about your deck. Talk about this metagame, and how did you think that matchup was going to go before you loaded up into it?
The matchup in general, I think, is pretty close and can go either way. The deck I played is effectively kind of an unrefined version of the deck I ultimately took to the European Championship, with a bunch of experimental cards that I ultimately perfected. But I still like the whole strategy of Steel Song, and a sprinkling of Simbas in there, I believe, can help the curve. In particular, the Simba 1-drop is the best way to fill out the 1-drop curve with characters that have useful abilities, in my view. That said, I didn't really play to the best of my abilities in this match. I felt. For example,
and we saw in that game 1, we were able to see some of your chat, and you were saying about how that Pete, you thought that was a misplay. Can you just talk about that play? What made it bad? Just for the viewers at home, keep in mind everyone's not going to be on your professional level, so kind of just break it down. Because me, I was lost. I thought it was a great play. So just can you just describe why that play wasn't great and what you should have done in that play, and also any other thing that you might have noticed in your own game?
I mean, often a turns repeat is a good follow-up to the 3-drop Ursula on the draw. But in this case, if I had just shifted the Robin Hood, I would have been able to take out the Captain Hook for free, and the main songs that Zan can sing on the next turn. In particular, Strength Over Raging Fire and Let the Storm Rage On would not be able to take out my Robin Hood, especially when there's one fewer character with a dead Captain Hook. And that meant that the double singing with Ursula on a subsequent turn would not have been so threatening, and that ultimately would have left me in a better spot in the game. That said, I indeed didn't really get to show off the really broken Steel Song draws where you start chaining a whole new world and going off. But yeah, that cannot happen every game, and Zan played his deck expertly, as he knows it inside out.
Absolutely. And we did mention that we were hoping, just for the viewer experience, and not to take anything away from you or Zan, we were just hoping for a good demonstration, and we were so sad that we weren't able to get that. But still, we thought the match was great. We thought that you guys still, even though you didn't have the cards you needed, you still played it to the best of your absolute ability. But we also have Zan is in the building, and Zan, yo, nice to meet you. Longtime fan. I got to say, congratulations on your win. And I want to hear from you as well. First, I know there are a lot of people out here asking. I'm sorry, Garrick, I'm jumping all over this thing, but there are a lot
You're
of people.
good. Go ahead.
There are a lot of people asking. Okay, you went over to Paris to participate in the Last Chance qualifier. What happened? Just clear the record one time for everyone. You got a lot of fans out there. There are a lot of people who want to know what happened.
Yeah, plain and simple. I sat at the wrong table.
Oh,
Yeah, and I was dropped from the event. It, it was a little confusing, but
hmm
nonetheless, it was my fault for sitting at the wrong table, and you know, it's gonna happen in 1 in 1,000 tournaments, you know.
for sure,
So,
for sure.
um,
But it was a bittersweet moment because you also got invited directly to the World Championship, so it's kind of like you won what you came to do there anyway. But back to this tournament, as I just asked, as I just asked Frank, talking about this metagame, we noticed that Emerald Steel deck didn't really make any sweeping changes. Where do you think that deck's at in this meta based on this LCCC, the LCCs, and the events that are taking place in the last national tournament? Where do you think the green steel strategy is at? Because a lot of people are kind of way down on it with the release of Genie and a lot of answers to that Diablo Cove play.
yeah, I think that a discard strategy can never really count out,
Mm,
just because I mean discarding cards can inherently be good against everything, because there's not very many things that punish you for putting something in the discard pile, right? Besides Lilo. Um, I think that you can never really count Emerald Steel out. There was still an Emerald with very low representation of Emerald Steel at EU Continentals.
mm-hmm.
There's still one that made top 16,
Okay.
and it was 2 cards off of my list from Vegas. And so yeah, I felt like I feel like the game is still fresh, and we have like a tendency to want to play new cards in every set, and I think that sometimes it's okay to play a deck that has no new cards from the new set because that color combination or that strategy wasn't supported. And so I think that, after the testing phase is over, if there's truly no cards that fit into the strategy, it's okay to just walk away with having no cards from the new set, in your deck.
You don't think that puts you at some type of disadvantage or like some type of power creep or something like that? Because as I mentioned in the broadcast, maybe you can listen back to it later, with the release of
Mhm.
this new evasive Genie, everyone's gunning for Genie now, and that is just coming after Diablo, which is such a critical portion of this green steel strategy. Have you been feeling some ramifications of that, or is that something you're not too concerned about because you can just play around it in different ways?
Well, the thing that we noticed in testing was the same cards that were effective against red purple or blue red before are still just as effective. Um, Cove being one of them, right? Like if there's a Cove on the field, then Diablo's winning the battle, right? And so the other part of this equation is actually muses.
Mm,
What we noticed was, since Genie's ability is not a May ability, that if you just bounce muses and you have a Diablo, muses and Diablo ends up winning the battle.
mm,
Um, the other thing about it is, like, I mean, Diablo comes down on turn 2, right? And Genie's coming down on turn 4. So it's not like a 1-for-1 answer. It's definitely better against your later games, but the way Emerald Steel capitalizes is on, turns 1, 2, and 3, and Red Purple is more so trying to capitalize, 4, 5, 6, 7.
mm.
So
No, I was mainly talking about everyone is going to be arming themselves with answers for Genie, and those same answers to take out Genie will also take out Diablo. So you're going to have to be
yeah,
fighting way more Zeuses and way more things that you probably didn't have to in set 5 from
yeah. I
before.
mean, it doesn't exactly, and like Genie's also just like a free card. It's like a Maleficent, right? Like 3-drop Maleficent that's like super free to play. So even if you have an answer for it, usually you're on the downside of the answer,
Right.
right? Because they've already replaced the card. And so I think that like being being able to race a genie is one thing, and being able to punish a genie is another thing. Because I don't think you can really punish a genie, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I thought I'm going to be tuned in to see exactly what you got going on. Are you going to be participating? I'm gonna throw it over to you, Garrick. I promise. I just got these things on the front of my mind, and I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right? But are you going to be participating in the national tournament? Are you going to use that as a testing ground for your Worlds invite? So talk to us about your preparation going into the national season and into Worlds. Are you without revealing any of your hidden techniques? What are you going to be doing to prepare for the national tournament if you're playing, and what are you going to do for the World tournament?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go to NA Continentals. I really do believe that, playing Lorcana is a momentum thing, and you want to have good momentum going into Worlds and be a part of deciding what that meta is, right? Whenever you go to a tournament, you are establishing the meta for the next tournament. And so I really think that even if you don't end up necessarily winning the tournament, you partook in the discovering of what the top deck or best performing deck that weekend is, which is going to ultimately affect the next weekend. And so even though EU didn't go as planned, I still was very happy to be there, very happy to meet. I met Frank, I met Moyen in person. It was just like an incredible weekend, even though the tournament part didn't go well. The people part is also why I play this game. And so, yeah, I will definitely be at NA Continentals. How am I going to prepare? That was your other question, right?
Right.
How am I going to prepare? I've been talking about it a little bit more and more, but basically I want to determine like what are, the 4 or 5 decks that I believe are going to be the most metagame share of Worlds, and then build a deck that beats all of those or has a favorable matchup against all of those, right? And so, do we know exactly what those decks are going to be? No, NA Continentals is going to help determine what those decks are, So, I'm excited to find out who those players are as well, right? That are going to get those Worlds invites. That's also an important part of the equation. So, yeah, so excited to figure that out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Garrick, now I'll throw it over to you, Garrick. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Garrick's pinning. We got Garrick in the building right here. I'm sure he's got some things he want to ask you guys too. But thank you so much for that information, and thank you so much for that magnificent gameplay. And congratulations on your win.
No problem. Thank you.
Hello, Zan. Hello, Frank. Thank you for the great match. Frank, I had a question about the second game. I believe it was your turn 3. You had Smee in hand, Simba Shift in hand, and the Zeus that was in your hand for most of the game. And you were thinking about what to do. You inked the Piglet, and you played the Smee, I believe. And I was wondering why you decided to shift the Simba on 3. JDZ and I were thinking, well, maybe you want to hard cast the Simba on 4 and keep your bodyguard on the board and add the second one. But just curious what the thinking was there, because you ended up shifting the Simba on 4 instead of playing it after the Pete came down, the second Pete.
True. Well, there were a bunch of considerations. For one, if I wanted to put as much, let's say, questing power onto the board, then leading with either Piglet or Smee and then adding a Simba on the next turn would allow me to build out my board in the best way possible. I didn't want to shift Simba immediately because I also wanted to leave open the possibility of indeed just hardcasting it later. But after multiple beats came down, the value of a Simba bodyguard suddenly went down considerably because a 2-3 doesn't match up very well against the 3-3 beats. And I think I went for Smee instead of Piglet just for the slightly larger size, which I figured could come up later. And I also didn't want to commit the big Simba immediately and start questing, because then there's also a possibility of losing it to opposing characters or removal spells. So I tried to sequence it in that way. I think a couple turns later, it was clear to me that the game was rather unfavorable for me.
Mm.
So then I started thinking about my outs. For example, trying to set up the game in a way where if I drew, say, a whole new world or an Ariel into a whole new world or perhaps a Rapunzel would give me the best chance to win. Um, I think that's why at some point I didn't quest with the big Simba and hoped for the best, which did not come to be. At least my Mulligan 7 in game 2. I do like to live dangerously.
Yeah,
Worked out,
that was a
worked
solid,
out
that was a
reasonably.
solid alter.
I was just hoping for a one drop or an Ariel and decided to dig deep. But Zan is too strong.
And that's one of the deals we make. I'm sure you guys have a long story history in trading card games, so you understand how it goes. When you play these games, you get what you get. I mean, RNG is always going to be a factor. The cards you get off the top of your deck is always going to be a factor. But both of you gentlemen have figured out a way to manage that. I got one quick question. I just want to ask that before we wrap this thing up. How do you guys do that? How do you manage the variance? What do you? I really want to pick your guys' brain just really quickly before we. I know you guys have to go. Just what are some of the key takeaways for a newer player who's always, hey, they got lucky, they got this, they got that. How do you manage that? Because we got a lot of golden Mickeys and a lot of championship rings in the booth right now. So I just want to pick your guys' brain really quickly, and I'll start with you first, Frank, and then I'll throw it over to Zan. Just any kind of thing that you can think of off the top of your head of how do you manage some of that variance in these trading card games and get continued success.
So one element is realizing that over the course of many games, you will be both on the favorable and unfavorable ends of variance.
Mm-hmm.
But I rarely really focus when analyzing games on whether someone was lucky or unlucky. I always try to focus on the things you can control. So trying to make the best decisions with the information you have, and trusting that over time, um, like if you keep making the right decisions in the right spots, which, by the way, I don't think anyone in Lorcana is currently doing, because it is actually a very complicated game with a lot of deep strategy, and no one, including I think the players in the LCCC, have completely mastered it yet.
Mm.
But if you keep playing the game in the best way possible, then eventually you will get there. So don't focus on who was lucky or unlucky, and rather focus on analyzing the decisions you make, because that is what you can control.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anything you want to add to that, Zan? What do you think? I just want to hear just from your perspective, man, because it's very rare that you get this much talent in one location. So, of course, I'm going to try to get as much information as I can.
Since Frank took like the analytical answer, I'll do the philosophical one. I'm gonna say that playing Lorcana, a match of Lorcana is like life, right? You draw cards, and it's all about how you react to them, and you're just trying to make the best decision you possibly can, just like you do in life. But you have some decisions. You get to choose what's in your deck, right? And so, if you just do that over and over again, your life's gonna be better, and also you're gonna be a much better Lorcana player.
Absolutely. Perfect and well said, gentlemen. And I gotta say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for coming out here and doing this and giving some of your free time up to participate in this LCCC. If you haven't noticed, this has been a great treat for the community. A lot of people have latched on to this, and these dream matches have been just a spectacle to watch. And I had such an honor and pleasure of being your broadcaster and bringing this thing home, and it's been so great. So, gentlemen, if you don't have anything else to say, I'll let you go. But thank you so much for coming by and telling your story and giving that free information. We all really appreciate it. Where can we find you guys at if we need some more information?
You can find me most easily on Twitter at Karsten_Frank, and check out my articles on the TCG Player website. There, I share my insights into the game.
Absolutely. What about you, Zan? I know you got the podcast going. Where can we find you at?
Yeah, you can find me at Zan Syed YT. So for the podcast, that's the main place I'm posting content these days. I also want to say I've been reading Frank's articles for a decade, and they've definitely helped me level up. So definitely go check those out.
Absolutely. I will do, gentlemen. But again, thank you so much for coming by and providing your skills and talent. I hope you all have a wonderful and fantastic day. But for all the viewers at home, the Lorcana action is not over. Okay, don't adjust your dials. Don't touch your dials because we got a raid. We're going to be kicking it over to the Wonderland. The Wonderland will be streaming. We have RMB versus Kawa, Blue Steel versus Emerald Amber coming up. That's going to be another great match, I think. So I'm all in here for it. So Key Garrick, are you ready? We're not locked in on that one. We're going to kick it over to Wonderland, but anything else you want to say before we wrap this thing up and shut it on off?
No, just want to say thank you for letting me cast today on your channel. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to Frank. It was nice talking to you again, and Zan as well. Both amazing players. Cannot wait to see you two perform excellently at Worlds. I am looking forward to it. Thank you to Pavel for putting all of this together, and really excited for the top 4 to see who will be the champion of the Lorcana Cross-Continental Challenge. You can find me at KI_Garrick on Twitter, Key Issues Garrick on pretty much everything else.
Hell yeah, Garrick. It's always a pleasure to do this with you, man. I like how you kind of balance me out with you, and you had me dying. You had me rolling. You're so funny. So make sure you check out what Garrick's doing and support each other. But I think Wonderland should be going live here soon, and then we'll go ahead and send the raid party over there. You guys make sure you send your energy on to North America because we're coming back. NA is rising back up. Sorry, Frank. NA is rising back up, baby, as we're going to be making some waves in this final round of the LCCC. I believe this is the last match of the Switch portion, and I think we're all knotted up. I think we're tied. Are we tied or are we down? I think we might be tied right now. This could be 4-all right here. So let's see if I can get the raid going over.
It comes down to the last one. We're 4 for EU, 3 for NA right now.
Oh, so we can tie it up. We got to tie it up. Okay, it's all going to be on RMB's shoulders, and I'm sure he can handle it. So let's see if Wonderland is up. We can go ahead and send the raid over there and bow this thing out of here gracefully. I think that is going to be what we do. So I'm not sure if his stream is going. If not, you guys know who the hell Wonderland is. Get over there and show him some support. I don't see his stream up just yet. It should be coming up quite soon.
I mean, we can just hang out until it's up. And
yeah, we'll kick it here. We'll kick it here. We'll kick it here until he get up, until he can get his stream up. Let me shoot him a message real quick.
Yeah, I think what is going to be interesting is going to see who is going to make it into the top cut, because in Europe right now, I believe there are 3 players that are 3-1. If I'm not mistaken, there might be 4. I know Frank is, Frank is, Moyen is Din 3-1? I know Artabax is 4-0, so he's definitely in. So I think it's going to come down to tiebreakers to see who is the second person in the top 4 from Europe. But Europe did so well. I mean, maybe give them a couple more.
They exceeded my expectations mightily. I thought it would be a lot closer, but I think they came out and dominated pretty good. And the top cut, it's going to be all bets are off. So there's no more teams. It's all an individual exercise at that moment. And the mat that they came out with, I think it is gorgeous. It looks so good, and
absolutely beautiful.
It's gonna be.
Shout out to Matified for making those. and then I believe the Steamboat Willie is custom unique art made for Pixelborn. So those are just awesome playmats that everyone in the top 4 is going to get, and the champion's going to get a beautiful holographic playmat as well. I'm really excited for that. I think North America's locked in, right? We have Sailor
Mm-hmm.
is in.
Sailor's in, and I believe it is. No, I think we have a lot of 2 and 2. No, Sailor and do we have anywhere 3 and 1s? No, I think we have 2 and 2. We might have to roll some dice or something. I'm not sure who's going to get in. We might have to do a little bit of gamble strategy to see who's going to get in on that last seed. It's going to be the top 4 from each side. All right, so it looks like Wonderland does have a delay. So guys, make sure that you are going to be going over to that stream. Give that same energy over to Wonderland and bring it home in A. I don't see it yet. It's just got that 10-minute delay. You know how it is. You guys know what the vibe is. So we'll kick it over there very, very soon, and we'll do it just like that. I'm ready. I'm motivated. I'm dedicated. Hopefully you guys are feeling motivated too.
Also, next time you gotta let me know. We're dressing up. I would have put a suit and tie on. I would have been matching you.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. We did not coordinate. This is just kind of just fell together. Okay, every opportunity.
No, it's great. Every single time I see you, I'm like, he's got it on. He has got it on again.
Listen, anytime I have the opportunity to wear this jacket, I'm going to wear this jacket. Okay, I had to buy this jacket to attend a friend's wedding. All right.
It's beautiful. You get as much use out of it as you possibly can.
There you go. I had to pay cash money for it, so of course I'm gonna rock this thing as hard as I can. So I'll hold.
Yeah, it's a great look. So we'll see what happens with the top 4. It would be awesome to do at least one of the matches up there. I would love to do that. I love talking to all the casters, the community, and of course the players, and just getting that insight into their gameplay. I loved all the answers that both Frank and Zan were able to provide us during the interviews there. I can't get enough of what they've got to say. I was lucky enough to meet Frank and chat with him a little bit in New York with the release of Shimmering Skies, which is really cool in New York City. Have not had the chance to meet Zan yet, but hopefully at Continentals I'll see him there. I'll be in the LCQs. Hopefully I make it into the top, but it's going to be a lot of fun out there in Disneyland, and it's going to be amazing. Cannot wait for that.
And I'm always so impressed with how smart these guys are. Okay, they're just right off the top. They got it all figured out, and they seem like they just know. They're way more in tune with this thing than I think I can ever be, man. It's a skill. It's definitely a skill, and I think it should be reported a lot more. I think we got to do a better job of doing more coverage to get this information out there, because a lot of these players dedicate a tremendous amount of time to this game and to honing these crafts, and then it just kind of seems like it doesn't get the appreciation that I think it deserves. So I'm so all in on it, man, and I'm so ready for it to go. But I got a question for you. We're going to switch gears here as we just burn a little bit of time. We're waiting on the stream to come up. It should be coming in live soon. We're just kind of having a little after party with Garrick and JDZ still in the building holding it down. What do you think about I got a question about your question about a question to you that's been kind of floating around the community. What do you think about the two game format? Are you pro or are you against the 2-game format in Disney Lorcana?
So I've been to one DLC, so I don't have a ton of experience with it, and I did one set champion with it, and the only set championship I didn't top 4 was the one where it was 2-game format, and I missed Top Cut. It was one of those situations where I had to go 2-0 in the last one and went 1-1, so it was rough. My experience in Seattle, maybe it's just a thing of I need to get better, which I definitely do. Like, I recognize that I'm not the best player in the world, but I got top 128. There were some matches where I felt like I could turn this 1-1 into a 2-1. So sometimes it just felt unsatisfying going 1-1. So I really I see the benefits of it, but I love going and playing it out, and I think that the advantage that going first gives you, or gives your opponent if you're going second, can definitely be overcome by skillful play and just, outplaying your opponent despite their advantage. So I more often than not would like the opportunity to play that third game to see what would happen.
Yeah.
Because in Seattle, I was playing Ruby Amethyst, which is the deck I typically do play, and there were some games, game twos, like I would win. Game two, this happened to me twice in the mirror, where it's just like, all right, draw an inkable, draw an inkable, draw an inkable, draw an inkable, and I just lose the game type thing.
Yeah.
There was one time I had a friend who was watching me draw the fourth Be Prepared in a row while I was on 6 ink, and I just lose, right? So I would love the opportunity to play that third game to see what would happen, but there are definitely changes in my gameplay that I could do to make me better at those 2-0s, and maybe the next DLC I'll be able to get one more 2-0 and get into the top cut, because that's all I needed. So you can definitely do it and make that top cut. It's just I'm not used to it, so I'm used to playing 3 games, having been a Magic player for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's coming from other trading card games. So I'm coming from a Yu-Gi-Oh background, and it's always going to be 3-game format over there. And it took me the longest time to get used to this 2-game thing. It's such a bitter feeling getting that draw, and I'm like, that's it, I got to draw. And I remember one of the first earlier on set championships I went to, I just drew like it was a 2-game format, and I got like 6 rounds of draws, and I was like, this is miserable, I'm about to quit, I'm not playing this game. But it's slowly starting to grow on me and say like, hey, let's go ahead and it seems pretty good, because that's another like kind of like how you said, that's another skill expression. Like the better player is going to be able to get those 2-0s. The better player is going to figure out how to get the 1-1s on the bad matchups, and the better player is going to figure out a way to not ever go 0-2, and that is going to give advantages. So being 5-0-4, it's for me right now, it seems almost impossible. I've gone to a few DLCs, and I got the 4-2-3 or 4-3-2, like right there on the bubble, on the cusp, and I can almost get some of those 0-1, the splits into a 2-0 just by playing better. So I think that does kind of demonstrate another layer of skill that you have to demonstrate as a player. So I think it's pretty good, and also it's a lot faster too, time-wise. 3-game format will take a really long time, and these venues are not cheap. So I don't know. Hopefully they consider maybe doing more 3-game formats in the future. I would like to see more 3 as just in my heart, having a winner and a loser, but they would have to figure out a way to get those IDs out of there too. I think I don't like the IDs at all. I'm not an ID supporter in any way, but I wish y'all could be like Zach Bivens and just fight it out to the end. No more IDs, no more friendly handshakes. We're fighting it to the very bitter end, and do that. But let's see if this thing is up now, as we are giving you guys the after party, man. What a great match, though. It was a good after party. You guys are getting the after party. We're waiting on the main event to come in for the next round. It's going to be another slobber knocker, as well as RMB is going to be up against Kawa. Who do you think is going to win that one?
Well, I'm rooting for RMB.
Likewise.
Go North America, but I really don't know how the matchup goes. I think Emerald Amber has fallen out of favor significantly since set 4, and especially in set 6. So I'm not sure how the deck does currently into the meta. I just haven't seen it a lot. So it's going to be interesting. That Kita Under the Sea combo is definitely potent, and I'm looking forward to it.
And it's such an odd matchup. I'm interested to see how it plays out, because you have to play that match so odd as. Oh, if you're still in here, get in here. Talk to us, Frank. If you're still in the booth, we're still just burning time waiting on the next match to come in. We still got a whole legend in the building right now. If you want to come back in, if you can still hear me, come in and talk to us, man. We got Frank. We're sitting here. We're just kind of killing dead air as we wait for the next match to start. It should be beginning here in about 10 minutes. So we got Frank kind of standing by, and I did just ask a question to Garrick. And I would like to pick your brain about it, since you have participated in a lot of these events. And you're coming from a Magic background, obviously. What do you think about the 2-game format? Is it a throw? Is it good? Is it bad? From your perspective.
So personally, I would prefer a best of 3 setup. At the European Championship, for example, I started with the draw Fiesta. And then I was paired against a teammate, and it also ended naturally in a draw, which was not a very fulfilling result. That kind of left both of us disappointed. I like also coming from let's say an academic background on game theory. I don't like how with the two game format the incentives of players can suddenly shift mid-match,
Mm-hmm.
which can give some possibilities or incentives for collusion between unscrupulous players. Judges are cracking down on that as they should, but from a tournament structure perspective, I am under the impression that best of three is the superior choice,
Okay.
even if there are advantages to best of two. Well, it's not best of two game format, including the reduction of the play draw discrepancy, and it also typically has players spend more time actually playing games of Lorcana during the rounds, where you don't have to wait for other players to finish their third game if you had a quick game match, for example. But even weighing all the ups and downsides, yeah, I believe that best of three is better. That said, I think if I look at the format for the Continentals, I think an even more valuable difference or change would be to just increase the number of Swiss rounds.
Mm.
Right now, we have 7 Swiss rounds before a top cut, but there was actually ample time on both days to add additional rounds. And I think the more rounds you have, the better, because it just increases the likelihood that the best players rise to the top.
I think that could be
And
better because I know there and there's a chart that goes around. I'm sure you've seen it, but like after I would say around like 5 or 6, you could just see that you can clearly tell that people are just splitting those matches. Like no one's really playing it out. They're just kind of best of one or they're dice rolling or something like that. Something is happening, and I think at a certain point that's a little unfair to the players who still are fighting to play or taking those draws or something like that. So I think that could, I don't know, man. I think that you might be onto something there.
yeah, still, I mean, regardless of all that, I do appreciate that they are, trying out new things, and the whole first year of Premier organized play for Lorcana as a whole has been a smashing success.
Mhm.
So, overall, we can celebrate.